Okay, so I'm just cleaning out my truck today, and I just wanted to do a quick video of my tool setup. So I'm a tile setter. I've been doing tile for 15 years, over 15 years. I'm self-employed, and I just wanted to show all the tools that I use on a daily basis. So these are all the tools I carry with me in my truck. And these are, with all these tools, you could basically do anything. You could tile anything, do anything tile related. And this is what I carry with me every day. So if you're new into tile and you're thinking about what you might want to get, this is a good video to watch. Or if you're already an experienced tile setter, maybe you just want to see what I have. So I'll start here with the power tools. So I use, all my power tools are Bosch, and I got the Bosch mixer. I got the slim grinder, Monolith DNA turbo blade. I also have some of my other own blades I use. Got the oscillating tool. Now this is the high amp one. This is good for cutting baseboard really fast. And I normally use the wider cutting tool. This is good for doing more detailed work. If you're cutting out niches and stuff, this is great. And doing baseboard and stuff. I got the Bosch polisher with a 50 grit, and I do have a whole set of up to 3,000 of these interchangeable pads. But the 50 grit's good just to shave down tiles if you're doing miters and stuff like that. You only use the higher grits if you're polishing. And over here we have the Bosch hammer chipper. This is a must if you're removing tiles. You can use a hammer and chisel. That works fine if you're just doing a little bit of removal, but this tool is an absolute must if you're removing tiles. It's 10 times faster and it works really well. And I also carry a Bosch surface grinder. This is really nice for doing floor prep, grinding off old mortar, taking down high spots in concrete. As you can see, it's got the disc on the front there. All the dust comes out here. And then I use a rigid shop vac. 5 horsepower, 4 gallon rigid shop vac. And the nice thing with this vacuum is this hose fits perfectly in there. So you don't have to get the really expensive vacuum to go along with this. You can use a regular rigid shop vac. Cordless tools that I use a cordless grinder. I use this if I don't have a lot of grinding and if I don't feel like hooking up an extension cord. Impact driver, drill, and I also use these diamond drill bits. Now these go up to I think 12 inches. The biggest one I have is 6. So you're not going to see very many tile setters with this. A lot of tile setters will have the smaller bits for doing little holes, but these are really nice for doing more detailed work. You can get these on eBay really cheap. Alright, level I use, the Stabilo one I think it's called. It's time to replace this. The thing's so beat up I can't see anything really. Alright, my lights, I don't use the really expensive lights. I just get one of these with a big gigantic bulb, and that works fine. My grout setup is, I like to use the Arctic sponges. The blue bucket grout machine. I've had this since 2008, so I've had this for over 10 years. And I've totally beat it up, but it still isn't broken. It's still working. Original rollers. I've grouted tens of thousands of feet with this, and it's still going. They have the newer ones out, the black ones, which are a bit cheaper. I think I paid $160 for this, but it was worth every penny. I mean, I've had it for over 10 years. The black ones break really easy, so if you can pay a little bit more for these blue ones, they're great. I use the Sigma sponges. They're a little bit better than the cheaper ones. And my grout float is the Marshalltown, the blue handle. This is the best float. I use it. It's the only one I use. See, this one, I've had this for about a year. Still hanging in there, so I'll probably keep it until it totally breaks. These are really good too to pat down mosaics. Alright, I carry a blower with me. Just a cheap blower. These are really good if you need some self-leveler to dry really fast. I have a Pro Knees for my knee pads. I also use this. My Pro Knees are at work, but Pro Knees are the best knee pads you can get. But I do use this kneeling board. This is really good. And sometimes if I'm just on my knees a little bit, I don't like to put the Pro Knees on. So then I'll just put these cheap ones on. Alright, these are the hand tools I use. So all the trowels. I don't use the really expensive Marshalltown trowels. I use these really cheap ones. Other than my margin trowel, I use a Marshalltown. But for all my regular trowels, they wear out so fast, I don't bother spending $20 or $30 on a Marshalltown. I just get these cheap ones, they're like $5. And they last until they wear out. So these are all the hand tools I use. Scraper, tin cutters, file for doing miters with Schluter. I use the Fat Max measuring tapes. I always carry these 60 grits. These are good for sanding tiles down, polishing edges. Speed square, or sorry, laser square. So those are all my hand tools. A little bit of a mess. Now when I was younger, I used to buy those really expensive, fancy tool chests with 4 drawers, and they cost a bunch of money. But what I've learned is they're more of a pain in the ass, so I tend to just chuck all my small stuff into one $5 blue bin, and that's the best way to go. Extension cords, I don't use really expensive extension cords. I just get these cheap ones. I got 2 50-footers. That normally does everything. And then a $5 power bar. Here's some more of the stuff I use. You know, just ear muffs, ear protection, tape. I got a tester for doing the heat wires. Here's a really interesting tool. A lot of you people out there probably don't have these. So a regular stapler, but also getting a cable stapler. Now these are really handy if you're doing heat wires over wood, because these will tack the wires right down. So as you can see, these staple wires right into wood. So this is a really handy tool to have if you're doing heat wires. Cable stapler. Alright, always have my JBL boombox with me. And I do have a set of Bluetooth headphones. Alright, this is the wet saw I use. I don't use really expensive wet saws. I have this Rigid. It's a $200 saw. It's really small. It cuts everything. And this is the only saw I use. It works great. I actually have 2 of these. And my tile cutters. So the tile cutters I use the Sigma tile cutters. So you can see here's my cutters right here. I have the little guy that'll cut up to 12 inches all the way up to the big guy. That'll cut up to, I think, 52 inches. Now a lot of people, so this is the best tile cutter you can get. Next to, there's also another brand called Monolith. And I do have a Monolith cutter, but personally I do prefer the Sigma over the Monolith. That's just my personal preference. And for my smaller cutters, I like the pull style. And the reason I like the pull style is if you're doing, if I'm cutting a tile like this, for instance, if you're cutting a tile straight, that's fine. But if you want to cut a tile on an angle, so from point to point, so let's put a mark on the tile from here to here. Okay, so I'm going to put that on the cutter. Now you can see if you're using a pull cutter, that'll work fine for cutting a straight tile, but if you're doing detailed angled work, if you have a look here, the pull style, you have the wheel in the front so you can see exactly where you're cutting. Now the problem with the push style is the wheels on the back, and it's really hard to see, so you almost have to get on your hands and knees to do precise cuts. But I do have to say the push style is a lot nicer on the big cutter for doing big tiles. On the small cutter, the pull style works a lot better. So the pull style is what I use on my smaller cutters, and my large cutter, it is the push style, which works a lot better for your bigger tiles. Okay, thanks for watching. That's all the tools I use.